So today's a little Q&A video. This is actually really fun. I just put like a question up on my Instagram just asking me like any faith questions, just random questions about being like a Christian. So I just thought I would answer the questions that I got. Yeah, it's really fun. I know this channel is still small and it's just growing, but I just thought it would be really fun to kind of like do something different and kind of get like it challenged me to think about things I hadn't thought of before, and yeah, I just think it would be fun. So the first question that I got says, do you know about the heavenly virtues and capital vices? So I actually had to look this up because where I'm from, I definitely heard of the term heavenly virtues, but I hadn't heard of capital vices. And when I looked up, it was just the 7 deadly sins, and so I have heard of that before. So what I believe is that it originates in the Catholic Church, and the 7 deadly sins are 7 things that are considered sinful acts, against God's word, and then the heavenly virtues are like the opposite. So if greed would be a 7 deadly sin, then like generosity or charity would be a virtue. So the terms are not actually found in the Bible, but I think, in my opinion, from the background that I come from, it kind of relates to like the 10 Commandments, just things that you shouldn't be doing because they are sinful, they are wrong, they're not the way that God called you to live. And then the virtues are kind of like the way it says in the Bible, like in the New Testament, in like the way that we should be living and walking in a Christ-like way. So I feel like it's quite relative in that sense. But yeah, it's always good, in my opinion, to explore and look at different terms and different ways that different denominations look at things. We are still one church and one body, but we just have different ways of doing things sometimes, and I think it's good to explore that. So thank you for that question. It was actually really interesting to look it up. The next one I got says, how do you know when God is calling you to do something? So I actually think this one is different for everyone. And it can actually be really hard sometimes to tell if God is calling you to do something or if it's just like you wanting to do something. And so I feel like the key thing is, if whatever it is that you're feeling called to do, if that thing is not in line with God's word, like it's going to compromise your faith, or it's going to kind of push you further away from God, or it's something that's really negative and opposing, that's obviously not going to be a calling from God. God wouldn't call you to do something that's going to jeopardize your relationship with Him or with like your family in a negative way. A calling with something that would be in line with God's word is something that isn't going to make your relationship worse but continue to grow it. And sometimes it may mean that actually, if your family don't always believe the same thing as you, that for example, maybe you're called to do something within your church, like leading worship or something, and maybe your family isn't keen on that, and that could cause some disruption, and then it could be hard to tell if God's really calling for you to do that. But you know that doing worship is something that God asks us to do. It's something that He's going to bless you to do. And so I would say that that's a like, whoa, my camera's going. That's a good thing and a good reason. It's a good calling compared to maybe something that would mean you actually, like, I don't know, going and doing something really sinful that's just going to hurt your family, not actually be a positive thing. The other ways, I guess, you can tell that God's calling you to do something, I would say, it comes in different ways, but I would say, like, for example, verses. Sometimes God will keep drawing your attention to one particular verse which like is in line with the calling that He's asked you to do. Sometimes He might say like certain words to you, or like say something to you in prayer when you're like listening for His voice. I feel like my camera is just rolling. I also feel like sometimes people do have dreams and visions. I personally haven't experienced that, but I know people that have. So for me, I usually get a really, really strong gut feeling. That's what I would describe it as. It's just a really deep sense that this is something I need to go and do. I really feel at peace with it, and I really feel strongly about it. And then often what happens is, if you ignore it or kind of don't act on it straight away, usually what happens to me, and I think I've heard it from other people, is people from the outside might come and suggest that you do that thing, or God will keep opening a doorway and trying to kind of lead you to it. So I feel like there's a lot of different ways. I just think you need to be open to hearing from God, looking at your situation and try and see if is he opening a doorway for that calling, and is it something that's really in line with his word, or is it actually maybe something that will impact your relationship with him in a bad way. I hope that makes sense. I feel like that's a difficult question. Okay, so another question said, how do you manage to keep upbeat when you are ill? I feel like this is kind of maybe talking about not just upbeat in general, but like keeping positive with your relationship with God and still feeling joyful. I think it's always hard to be enthusiastic and upbeat when you're unwell, especially if it's a chronic and long-term illness. I've mentioned in passing, but I have chronic fatigue and hypermobility, and it's affected me for a few years. And I think one of the main things is you don't have to be upbeat and joyful like every single day, and you don't always have to feel super positive, because that's just unrealistic, and you are human. You're allowed to find things difficult and go through the motions, but obviously, especially when you have a chronic illness, you can't spend every day in that deep and miserable or dark place. And so I would say the things that have helped me to stay upbeat is spending time with God, reading the word and praying, and actually really looking at how God sees me. The more I understand about his love for me, the way that he cares about me, and the way that he wants me to be happy and succeed in life, really helps me to be more upbeat. And I also think that you have to look at your life not in the way that the world does. If you have like a chronic illness, and maybe people would look at you as not being as successful as someone else your age, or in the same kind of place as you in life, but God doesn't see it that way. He sees you as being successful, as being incredible. Sorry, now that wasp has gone. He sees you as an incredible person who's succeeding in your relationship with him, because even if you're ill and you're not necessarily doing things that people say is successful, when you're spending time with him and growing your relationship, that's like the most important thing to him. So yeah, I think just spending time really knowing how God feels about you and spending time with him, because he will lift you up if you ask him to in those hard times. But there is no, I guess, one way to do it. And in general, I think living a healthy lifestyle and trying to do things that keep you motivated and excited also can help. Those are the 3 questions that I got, and I'm really grateful to everyone who posted a question, because it was really fun for me, and I really hope to do this again. I did get a few things where people asked me, how are you, hope you're well, like nice to meet you and stuff, so I just thought I would say I am well, thank you. I'm enjoying the sunshine today. It's nice to be meeting all of you and interacting with you on Instagram. Yeah, please follow me over there so that I can do kind of more videos like this, and just keep sharing my personal faith journey, what life is like, as a young adult Christian. Yeah, if you would like to maybe hear my testimony and kind of how my faith journey has been, leave a comment below. Yes, I would really love to do this again. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.